Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of our Moody Talks. This month, we are focusing on the emotion envy. And envy is one of those emotions that is valid, but it's also core to us. And I think a lot of times people don't want to admit that they feel it, but they don't feel like it's comfortable to feel that, right? So we're going to talk about envy and secondary emotions this week. I also talked about last week, we talked about descriptive words that we use for envy and how intense they are for us. So if you don't if you haven't seen that one, please go back and take a look because it's important for us to, have descriptive words for a feeling and know their intensity. So with a word scale, you can put the different descriptive words on that scale so that you can know how intense the word is when you use it. And that can lead to helping you with finding coping skills for that particular feeling and that intensity, right? I also talked about last week the difference between envy and jealousy. I think a lot of people, use those words the same way, but they're actually different emotions, okay? So jealousy is when you feel threatened, when you feel as though something or someone is going to be taken away from you, or you're missing out on something that you had or you should have, and that is a threat to you. So jealousy is kind of a more intense emotion. Envy, I feel like envy's kind of like in the middle there because envy can lead to some toxic feelings, but it also can lead you to, get going and motivate you. So I feel like envy can be used in different ways. So primary and secondary emotions. Primary emotions are something you actually feel right in that moment. Secondary emotions are something that you can lead to, whether it be you're feeling that primary emotion for a while and it's turning into a secondary emotion, or you have that feeling and you immediately jump to a secondary emotion. And that's a way that our brains can use to protect us. So like for me, if I start to feel fear, I immediately go to anger because then in anger, I feel like I'm in control. And with fear, I don't feel like I have any control over the situation. So those are primary and secondary emotions. This week, so with envy, we can feel a lot of different secondary emotions that can lead to going toxic, honestly. So I wrote up a couple of the secondary emotions that can go with envy. Okay, so number 1, anger. And I think this is something that a lot of people feel. They jump to this emotion after feeling envy for a while because they're angry. Maybe they're working really, really hard on something and someone else has it so much easier than you can. And you feel envious of that person. You feel like, I want that. And why does it make it so easy for them to do? But I have to work so, so hard and I haven't even got there yet, right? So moving to anger is very common, right? You feel like you deserve it. So why can't you have it? So that is one secondary emotion that can come from envy. And again, anger can turn toxic, right? Next one, sadness. So feeling alone or left behind by the person or others. So when you feel sad after envy, it feels like you're being left behind, or the people that, who know this person and see how well they're doing and they're talking about it and they're like so happy about them getting to where they are, and you feel as though you're left behind. Nobody's talking to you. Nobody's cheerleading you on because it's harder for you, or you feel as though you had it or have it and it's just not it's not being looked at. People aren't paying attention, right? So that can lead to sadness and depression. When you just feel like you can't get to whatever it is you want when somebody else may get it much easier, right? So that's sadness. Then we have guilt. Guilt is thinking or doing something against their own values. Okay. This can also be like talking about people, doing things to sabotage people, right? And that goes against your core values as a person. You start to do things that, make you feel as though you've turned on your own values because you want to make others feel as though they're not doing as well. You might want to sabotage them. And that's not something that you would do. So you feel guilty about that, feeling that envy and the guilt that you want what they have, or you want to make them feel like they really don't have what they have, or that it doesn't matter at all. Okay, so that guilt is when you go against your own values. You can also feel shame thinking or doing something against social values in that group. Let's say you are at work and someone is doing a better job than you are at something, and you start talking to your workmates and say, yeah, you know what, they're not doing that great. I don't think that they're better than me or anything like that. And that can make others turn on you, essentially, and be like, well, why would you say that? Why are you talking about them, that they're not doing the good job that they're doing? So you're being shamed by the social value of people saying, no, you can't do that. You can't talk about people badly because you wish you had what they had, or that you could do what they do, right? So those are four of our secondary emotions. I think they're the most prominent emotions for envy, honestly, because envy, like I said, envy can turn toxic, or it can be a huge motivator for you. Okay. And that's a great thing, to have a motivation because you have this one feeling. And I think that's what envy is there for us, is to motivate us, to get us moving in the direction that we feel we should be going, or that we want to be going. So those are secondary emotions, and primary and secondary, and how they work together. So I hope you guys will come next week for, we're going to do some coping skills that help us to, before envy turns into a secondary emotion, how we may be able to stop that with some coping skills. Okay? So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you again next week. Bye.